Welcome to another episode of Be Your Own Boss. Our guest this week is Divyaa Advaani, the founder of SwabU. Divya is an image consultant and a soft skills coach. She's also a fashion designer and she's been serving clients globally for almost a decade now. She's also an author. She's written the book 101 Tips and Tricks to Enhance and Upgrade Yourself and Your Image. And the book is available on Amazon. So, author, fashion designer, image consultant, soft skills coach, Divya Advaani. Let's hear from her. Divya, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sachin.
So Divya, as you know, like as it goes on the Be Your Own Boss podcast, we share stories here, and let's start with your story, and let's start from the beginning here. Tell us about your parents, your siblings, where were you born, and the environment at home.
So, I've been born and brought up in Bombay. In my family, I have my parents, my mom and dad, of course, and my elder sister. I have always had a very supporting family, and they've always been very mindful about, my parents have been very mindful about the two of us being very independent. And since it's just the two of us, like both we are both sisters, and we don't have any brother, they never made us feel like oh, we do not have a boy in our house. So that was never the case with us, and I am truly blessed that I have such parents. So they've always taught us to fight our own battles, to be independent, and just do things ourselves, so that we do not have to ever rely on anyone.
Wow. And what did your father do? What did your mother do?
So my mom was working earlier. She was working with LML company, and after I was born, she left her job. And my sister's elder to me, so I was the younger one, not the spoiled one, I would say. But yes, it has always been a fun time with her. And my dad runs his own business. He is into softwares. He has his own company for the past 36 to 40 years now.
Oh wow. So you were born in a family where your father is running a business and your mom was working earlier and then she focused on you. So with that environment at home, did you have aspirations that growing up, that you want to also become an entrepreneur one day?
Absolutely. I think so. I've seen my mom also. She also started doing her own businesses. So she was doing a business of chocolates also in between. So she used to supply to corporates, and that was how. So I have seen the entrepreneurial thing in both my parents for that matter. And as a growing kid, I was very insightful about this whole thing. And I used to be like, oh, one day when I grow older, I will join my dad someday. But at some point of time in my life, I want to have my own company. I want to form my own company and I want to start by myself as an entrepreneur. I want to feel how my parents have felt and how that, the entire joy of being an entrepreneur is a whole different story.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, wonderful. So you had this aspiration, and once you finished your schooling in Bombay, what kind of studies did you go into?
So after doing my schooling, I got into accounting field. So I did my junior college in commerce, and after that, I diverted my field during degree college. I went into a specialized field of commerce, which was for accounting and finance. So I hold a graduate degree in accounting and specialize in accounting and finance, which is commonly known as BAF or your BAF. So that is what I did my graduation in, and I have always been a number person. And when I took up accounts in my 11th and 12th grade, I really fell in love with it, and I decided to take this further. I wanted to become a CA, but somewhere down the line, I was like, no, if I become a CA, then I am not going to have the vision that I had as a kid to start my own company and run my own company. CA was probably not the right field for me. So back was a level lower to that, and that's why I got into it.
Okay. And then once you finished your studies, and what was your first job like?
This is quite an interesting story. After I finished my graduation, so every year during summer vacations, right from school when we were in about eighth grade, Me and my sister, we used to go to my dad's office and we used to start working with him during the vacations. Of course, apart from the holidays that we used to go for. But apart from that, when we worked with him, he taught us literally everything, like, right from filing a paper to getting tea served to your clients and everything. We've literally done everything. And he made us that independent and he told us that, no work is big or small. And my mom also, for that matter. So that is how we started. And then soon after I completed my graduation, I joined my dad because that time I had this thing. I was a bit naive, I would say, and I was a bit confused with regarding to my career. What is it that I want to do? So until then, I think I was blessed that I had my dad as a backup who had his own company, and I started working with him. So I got into his business and I started working with him there, and I started as an intern first. So it was, of course, there was no rosy bed for us either, though we were his kids. But we had to do everything from this. So I started as an intern. And after that, slowly and gradually, I went on to becoming the marketing executive and a business development head. And I was handling Bombay, Delhi, and Chennai branches after a while, of course. But yes, that did happen. There came a time when I was doing that. And apart from that, I was also providing support to our clients, which also wanted me to, start coding over the software. I didn't do it a lot because, of course, I'm not qualified enough for it. But yes, a few little things that were taught to us, that was what we were doing to solve minor issues for our clients.
I love what your dad did. Really, this is fantastic. He could have just made you as like a privileged kid. Have work, do whatever you want, or just come and take over the company or something. But then he made you work at all levels, and you got that exposure. This is fantastic. That makes you strong. That makes you completely independent, right?
Absolutely. And I think I'm very grateful to him for doing that. It was both my parents' collective decision, so kudos to them that they did that.
Absolutely. So now you started working with your dad's company, coding a little bit, but mostly handling clients and also working on the numbers. And what was the next move after that?
So I wanted to always, I had this vision that I didn't want to just stop at my graduation. I wanted to study something. And like I said, right, seeing both my parents being entrepreneurs, I wanted to be an entrepreneur too. I wanted a firm I could call that, call it my baby, that, this is what I started, this is how I started. So to do that, I had to pick fields. And since I started working with my dad, I started getting a bit more clarity. Though I love IT field, I really enjoy the IT industry. But at that point of time, also, I wanted to do something that I was very passionate about. So I contemplated between two fields. I wanted to study further. I did my postgrad in fashion designing and image consulting. So that was one step ahead of what I wanted to do, because as a growing kid there was a time when I got typhoid, and because of which the medicines that I was taking made me put on a lot of weight. And whenever me and my sister would go shopping, she was really thin. She would put her hand onto something and it used to be hers, and I had to just literally adjust with what was available even if it wasn't of my liking. So at that point of time, I had this thing in my head that, when I grow older, I am going to design something for myself and also for the people out there who are like me, who do not get to wear what they really want. So that is what got stuck in my head. And now that I was wanting to choose my career ahead and, wanted to study further, I was contemplating between photography and fashion designing. But then the fat kid in me reminded me about how much I wanted to get into designing, and that's how I started my journey in that. So I did my postgrad in fashion designing, a 2 year course, completed that, and after that I started as my as a freelancer in 2014. And the very first order that I got was from a client from the States. So, of course, I was very happy. I took it up very enthusiastically, I would say. And after that, through word of mouth, I started growing. And that's how my journey in the designing field and image consulting field started. Because to design something for someone, I have to first analyze that person's body structure, skin tone, and a lot many things that are involved. So that's how my journey started there back in 2014 after completing my postgrad.
Got it. So to design something for someone, you study that person, and this is what you learned as a in your postgrad, right? That
Yes.
you customize it, very 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 tailor make it for them. Um,
Yes.
I want to look at this from another angle as well, Divya, here. So you were working, and then you did your post graduation, and then when you started working as a freelancer, tell us about that. The initial part, like you decide first that you want to start working as a freelancer, and then the first thing, of course, that you need is a client that you can start working with. How did you manage to get the first client, the US client that you got?
So I will say I was again blessed here. My very first client who was from the States was actually my cousin. And it was during Navratri that we were, talking about getting new clothes. She was anyways wanting to buy things. So she said that, since you've done this, why don't you make something for me? And that's how I started. I did that for her, and then through word of mouth, things started becoming bigger and better. And that's how I started acquiring different countries and different people. So that's how I started my growth.
Got it. So once you decided that you want to start growing, did you start already like slipping that into the conversations? Did you already start like announce it to the world in a subtle way maybe, but that this is something that you want to do because how and the reason why I'm asking this is a lot of people who have certain talents and they want to use their talents and become a freelancer, right? Especially in the case of homemakers, when they have had already like let's say a maternity break of 4 to 5 years, and then after that they have the choice of either going back to work or they start something as a freelancer. And this freelancing is like it's a fantastic option for people who want to be their own boss, use their talents to be their own boss. And this is the reason why I'm asking again that so like help us through that process of like once you know what your talents are and once you decide that you want to do it, did you do any social media posts about it or in the conversations? Tell us through that, talk us through that
Sure.
process.
So I think that's a very good question that you've put across. So yes, there were struggles in the beginning because I remember very clearly when I was studying, I was doing my post grad. I didn't give up on my dad's business. I was still working for him, and then to do my assignments and the amount of work that we were given from college, there was a lot of time involved. And I remember I used to stay awake till like 2 3 in the night to finish my assignments. Throughout the day I would be working with my dad, so it was quite a tough job, I won't deny that fact. But looking back to it now, it just gives me good memories that how that phase was also passed across. And then when I started as a freelancer, like I said, my very first client, when I got her, I was happy. But at that point of time, I think I was a little clueless because I didn't have a business strategy for myself as such. I didn't know what was coming next for me. I was just taking each day as it was coming to me. But then after a point, there came a while when, I was literally thinking over this whole thing after serving a few people. I started thinking that, where am I going? What is happening in my life? I am just doing things and whatever is coming, but what are the extra efforts that I'm making for it? And back then, the social media craze wasn't as much as it is today, to be very honest. So that time, social media wasn't that popular. Yes, people had Facebook and stuff, but still, you could just post like a little few things, and that was about it. But since I was also a starter, for me to match up my designs to what I am today was something different, I would say, because I was just at a starter level. So that wasn't a wow job at that point of time. But then people who knew me, of course, to help me grow, they were doing that. They were giving me orders and stuff. And after a while, there came a point, I started seeing that, I started studying a lot of different designers. I started seeing how they were working and how things were going about and how exactly things are to be done. So then this thought came to my head that, right now what I am doing is very limited and it's a very basic thing, a very basic level to a designer. And that was the reason I wanted to get more insights over this entire field of designing. So I started applying for jobs, and when I say job, I will say that I started applying for internships because at that point of time, of course, I was a fresher in this field. Though I had the experience of the IT industry, but it was a very different industry than what I was getting into. So with that, I started applying as an intern to different designers. And I got lucky enough to be appointed by Alba and Reena. They are well known Indian designers. And I started working with them as an intern. So, usually, our internship period in this field is about 3 months. So back in October 2015 is when I started with them as an intern. And the very next month, I was offered a full time job as an assistant designer. So, first, they were seeing my work and seeing how I was operating, and that's how I cracked that deal and happily took it up. Obviously, I didn't say a no to them. So, I started with them. But I got a very good exposure there. What I wanted to learn was exactly what was served to me there. So I really feel very blessed that, I got appointed by those wonderful people, started working with them, got to see many different aspects of how the fashion industry works and how it goes about. So then I could also apply that in my own business. And when I was freelancing, I was also freelancing while I was working with them. So that way, a few insights from here and there were helping me in my own business too. I didn't launch my brand back then while I was, when I just started.
Hmm.
But after while I was doing the work with these people, I learned a lot many things. So, I was handling their clients, their international clients. I was doing the designing for them. Then now, while I was doing the designing part, I didn't have to just stop at that. I also had to see that they are being produced. So the production house is also under me. So I was seeing all of that. Literally, the only thing left over there was to sit on the sewing machine and sew clothes. Apart from that, I think I've done everything. But it is a very good exposure, I feel, for people who want to start fresh and they want to learn, they really shouldn't think that any work is big or small. They should just do everything because at the end of the day, everything that they're doing is something that is teaching them themselves, right? So it's just enhancing your own specific skills and going forward. So yeah, that's how
Absolutely.
I started. And then I was also taking care of the exhibitions. I was the face of the exhibitions and I was working with them. After that, the exhibitions out there gave me an idea to start with my own exhibitions with my own brand. And that's how my brand was launched in March 2016. And I started participating in exhibitions, smaller exhibitions at first. And yeah, since then, been into a lot many exhibitions, been a good journey, seen ups and downs, a lot many, I would say, in the beginning. But after I got a sense of how these exhibitions operate, I started getting stable and started getting better. So yeah, there were hardships also, but at the same time, it was a good side also.
Yeah. Great. Let's talk about those exhibitions for a moment here. So you once you decided that you want to launch your brand, you went and participated in these exhibitions. What kind of challenges were there? You said there were a lot of initial challenges, right? So for the listeners who would like to, let's say, um, do take part in exhibitions for the first time, what kind of challenges did you face and how did you overcome them?
So the very first challenge was money, of course, because I am someone that I do not like to keep asking a lot from my parents because I feel they've done enough for us with respect to bringing us up, educating us, and all of that. So yes, the initial part of investment was a huge criteria for me. Though I took help from them, but slowly and gradually I returned the entire thing. They didn't want it, but then I insisted. So that is how it started. So money was yes a major challenge I would say in the entire exhibition because stalls are not cheap. So when you get into any exhibition, stalls are not cheap. The second challenge that I faced was that when I was going in for exhibitions, I didn't know what kind of stalls I should be picking. So, there were so many times that I would take a stall maybe in the last zone because it was cheaper than compared to the first zone. So I did that. But then what was happening was there were a lot many food stalls by me. And then when people used to come across, who used to pass by there, these food stall owners would come in, they would like literally come out of their stalls and hover over people walking there. So, people who wanted to come to my stall also would run away from there because they were, or either they would get into their stalls because they were offering free samples to eat and, people just go eat some free stuff and walk away. So, my stall was literally left out there. And also, there were some exhibitions in the very beginning when I started with. They were smaller exhibitions. So the kind of crowd that was coming into those exhibitions was not an ideal crowd because the kind of clothes I had were at a higher range. And the people who were coming there were probably the ones who wanted to buy a mid range collection. So that was not something that I was serving in the very beginning also, because I was very clear with what I want my niche to be and how I want to go ahead with my entire clothing range, because once you start something, then you are known for that. So those were a couple of challenges. Then again, recovering your stall, the amount that you paid in for your stalls was an issue because there were no sales happening or things like these, that were coming up with respect to the food stall or different other stalls. There have also been times when there were people who were in the same industry, so who were in the clothing industry and were right by me or opposite to me, and they were well established, so they, of course, had more experiences compared to me. Their clothes were a little more better than what I had to offer. So people would buy from them, and the kind of sales that they would provide, they would say a 50% sale or whatever amount of sale that they would give. So I was very new, and at that point of time, I was very rigid. I was like, no, these are all new clothes. Why should I put it up on sale? So those were few challenges that I was facing. So that is how. But yeah, I think all of that taught me. Then after a while, when I started doing more exhibitions, I got an idea about what stalls I should be picking, who should be by me, who should be opposite me, then also what kind of zones I should be getting into, and then what kind of price range should I be catering to if it's a certain exhibition of a certain caliber. So those all things were I that those are things I started learning, and then once sales started happening, I didn't even have to rely a lot on my parents for the monetary part. Of course, they were offering me the money still there, even then. But yeah, I think I was majorly using what I had stored for myself.
Got it. And those are very interesting challenges that you mentioned here. Like the position, the place, it covered all those aspects, right? I mean, where in the exhibition you're there, and versus, so the lessons you learned was like, you need to have at the right place in the exhibition, put it in the right
Absolutely.
price, and participate in the right exhibition where you have the right kind of crowd. Is that your target audience or not? Is that your target customer segment or not? These kind of
Right.
things. Brilliant. And so with these exhibitions now, you slowly established yourself as a brand now, right? And how did the journey go? And I want to come to the personality development part here, and how you transition from fashion designing to and connecting the dots between the two.
So, like I said, image consulting and fashion designing go hand in hand. So, a couple of things that are a part of image consulting, like I mentioned, are you first analyze the body structure of a person, you analyze the skin tone of a person. Once the outfit is made, you also help them style it. So, part of wardrobe consultation was also what I was doing. And these were things that I was doing for my clients on a passion basis, and that's how it started. But over the years, when I started doing, and as far as soft skills are concerned, I am quite a communicator. I love communicating with new people and I like to network with new people. So, communication has always been a part of me ever since I was a kid. So, for me, a 2-year-old and a 90-year-old are exactly the same. So, I can become a 90-year-old with a 90-year-old, I can become a 2-year-old with a 2-year-old. So, that is how it goes. So, that's how the communication bit was also happening, and I wanted to study a little more into communication. So I did a couple of courses on soft skills. I completed my courses in soft skills, and image consulting was anyway something that was taught to me. So also came a part of etiquettes when I started seeing a lot of YouTube videos back then. I used to get really fascinated with how the entire etiquettes go, how the elegance in one person's actually enhances that person's look. So those were the things that were attracting me way too much. And while I was doing this, I started experimenting on my current designing clients. So whoever were my clients in my designing sector, I started experimenting on them, and I will say that they've also been really sweet to have helped me in that experimentation of mine. So I used to do that with them, and it was a fun time. They would also have fun, doing these entire activities with me. And then over a period of time in 2020, when COVID hit, right? So I stopped with my exhibitions, of course, because the COVID situation is not something that is hidden by people. So that was when I stopped getting into exhibitions. The last exhibition I did was in December 2019. And after that, I started asking people during COVID, because my business and my major business was So You, my brand, my fashion brand. And that time I was literally jobless. I had no income. I was talking to people. I was like, hey, do you want new clothes? Do you want to get something? And they would tell me, Divya, what can we do with new clothes? We are literally at our homes in our track pants and pajamas. What do we do buying new clothes? And of course, I also understood that because this was not something that was in anybody's control. So then I thought that, why not put my image consulting and soft skills experimentations that I have been doing over these years, why not put that to use and see how I can start that as a career, with like, a professional career. So while I was doing that, I was anyways offering these offers. I was giving them these services free of charge. Now I thought of starting to charge people. So in 2020, there was this case which is very dear to me. So a friend of mine, she had a love marriage, and during the work from home period, when all the people migrated from their offices to their homes, the most affected people were the housewives. For them, they lost their space, they lost their own time, the me time was gone. They were literally working 24/7, and yet they were going crazy because they were not getting time for themselves. So this very dear friend of mine came to me, and she was so mad at that point of time. She just told me, Divya, I want to divorce my husband. And I was taken aback. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You have had a love marriage, you've been married for over 10 years. Why this suddenly? So then she's like, no, I don't know. I just want to divorce my husband. I can't tolerate all this nonsense anymore. I don't have time for myself. Everybody is just making me do everything. I don't get to do anything that I like. So I understood where she was coming from and I empathized with her. But then I had to get her out of that. And I started working on her. I started making her do a couple of activities which were related to my image consulting and soft skills. So time management was one thing that I started with her. Then small activities like, dressing her up, and then a couple of etiquettes. I would just, just for passing time, because that time she was very free. I had nothing much to do for my designing thing either. So I started spending time with her. We started getting over video calls. And I told her that, see, in etiquettes on your dining table, you have to have such things here. Then she started applying those while her family used to sit together for lunches and dinners. So she was also being appreciated for all of that. And that's how the journey started. And after a while, she came to me and she started telling me, Divya, what have you done to me? I said nothing. Then she like, no, you've definitely done something to me. I said, no, I haven't done anything. It's you who has worked on yourself. She's like, I am so happy. All of a sudden, I don't want to divorce my husband anymore. I was like, wow, that is what I wanted. So that's how the journey started. Then a lot many housewives. Then she started getting me another few housewives also who were going through similar situations. So what I figured was that till the time you are not happy with yourself, you cannot make people around you happy. And in that phase in 2020, when everybody was literally struggling with so many things with respect to their jobs, with respect to their families, people losing out people on because of COVID, many people were falling into depression. So loving yourself at that point of time was a challenge for so many. So how to get them out of that was my focus, and that was my agenda, to get those people out of that situation and help them. So that's how I started. And then recently in October last year, 2023, during Diwali is when I decided to take this brand, like to form a brand for myself for my image consulting and soft skills, and start applying to B2B, because over these years I've been serving a lot of individual clients. Now I wanted to get into corporates and hospitals and colleges. So these are the things where I wanted to get into. That's how SwabView was born. And SwabView is why the name SwabView is because Swab. I think you would be coming onto that. I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
just
exactly. I was just about to ask the good, good. Carry on. Serve you. Yes.
yes. So why the name Swerve You? Because swerve basically means to groom someone to make them look elegant and poised. So that was the reason I chose this name, because I wanted a name that was rhyming to my designing brand, which is So You. So the U was common, and I wanted it to be relatable to the field that I am in. Since I am grooming people and making them a better version of themselves, that is why I chose the name Swerve, because that is what I'm doing for you. That's why I Swerve You. So that's how that name was born, and I started with different hospitals and corporates, IT sector. That's how I've been doing, along with my individual clients, of course. Now I don't do it on a passion basis anymore. It's all professionally now.
Yeah. And Divya, talk us through that process of when you shifted from doing it for free for people to
Mhm.
starting to charge clients for it, right? So, was it difficult?
Yes and no. So I will tell you why I say yes and no. Yes, because of course at that point of time I wanted a source of income too, and no, because there were people who were ready to pay me, but not to the level that I charge today. So at that point of time, they were just giving me out of respect that I'm spending so much time on them, I'm doing things for them. So even they didn't like the idea of me doing it for free. And at that point of time during COVID, I also forgot to mention this to you. I started working with another product engineering company. And with them, I was working as a project manager and a software tester. I needed a source of income. I couldn't sit idle for too long. I am a little workaholic, I would say. So I needed something to do. And apart from, just my image consulting and soft skills, while I was transitioning from a free to a paid version, it took a while for people to understand because right now, in a layman's language, they don't see image consulting and soft skills as a huge, major agenda or difference to create. For them, it's like, just personality development, which actually is a personality development. But right now, with terming things the right way, really helps you overcome a lot many things. So, using the right words, using the right sentences can really help you. So I started making them understand, though this is personality development, you are still improving on certain aspects. It's not, when you say personality development, your entire body, your entire mind, everything comes into place. But when you talk about image consulting, there are certain aspects of your body that are taken care of under image consulting. When you talk about soft skills, there are certain aspects of your life that are coming into consideration. So those were the things I had to explain to people and make them understand that there is a difference between saying just personality development and the using the right term image consulting and soft skills. Once they started understanding how this entire process is, they were willing to pay me. So slowly I started with a very little amount. I won't deny that fact. So I started charging very little, like I would charge only 500 rupees an hour, which is really peanuts. You can just go out for a dinner and spend more than that. So I started doing that. But even I wanted a base for myself. So charging very little to understanding how much I should be charging, getting connected with the right kind of people, the right coaches who could also tell me what the current rates are in the market when you should charge someone. So that was a journey for me. I learned quite a lot. And I think life is a learning lesson. The more you get into it, the more you keep learning each day. So that is what is going on.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I wanted to come to actually. Like when you started charging, right? Like how did you decide what to charge? Okay, of course, in the beginning you just charged a small amount, but how did you find out what the others are charging in a similar space for a similar kind of service? Did you do any kind of mystery shopping around?
So no, there was no mystery shopping involved, but I didn't really go out there looking out for the right amount. I just wanted to start something. I was clueless. Yes, I even when I was charging 500, I thought of charging 500. I was wondering, will people even pay me that much? Given the scenario, the current scenario, will they even give me 500? For them, this would just be like a luxury thing to them, right? It wasn't a basic necessity. So I thought that, maybe just let's try my luck. Let's start from 500. You never know where this will take you. But I think good that I took this call. Of course, I took my parents' suggestions. And they were also telling me that, I think 500 is not a bad amount. You can just go ahead charging. See, if you think that, there are not many people coming to you, then probably lower your prices and then do the experiment on yourself and see how it works for you. So that is what I did. Started with 500, but thankfully there was no coming down. There has always been a rise since then. And slowly and gradually, when I started now mystery shopping for the right kind of amount I should be charging, I started getting in touch with a couple of people who are in the coaching sector, though not necessarily in the same kind of coaching that I provide and the same kind of consultation that I give. But I got a fair idea about how do coaches charge, how do they have their entire plan set, how many sessions they should be taking. So based on that, I started doing my groundwork and I started forming courses for myself to provide to my customers, individual or corporates or mid-sized groups, hospitals. So based on that, my entire course structure started forming. And then after getting into a couple of smaller organizations at first, I saw how much they were willing to pay. Not many organizations are willing to spend that much over trainings. So even then, that taught me that how different organizations also work, and what would my target audience again be in this specific field. So that is how I learned and I moved ahead.
Yeah, with organizations, they have a certain budget, and they have to work within that budget.
Right.
Fantastic. So now you're establishing yourself as the image consultant and soft skills coach. And how did the journey from there move on? And how did Swaview, like, let's come to the part where you wrote the book, and yeah,
So this is a very interesting story. I was struggling with my entire branding, and I was wanting to know that how can I go forward. So there was a person I spoke to, and she told me, so she's a nutritionist and she's a dietitian. So when I spoke to her, there was this one person I met through. So I've been a part of BNI. So you would know BNI, right? So I've
yeah,
been a part of BNI. It's a networking platform, and through there I made a lot many connections. So this was when I was in BNI. I was in the designing category, and I was also, of course, with my designing, this went hand in hand. So there was a dietitian I came across, and I was just talking to her, and I was telling her about the problems that I'm facing with respect to branding and to scaling up myself. So she told me about one man who I already knew, and he's a part of BNI too. Mr. Yogesh, his name is. So Yogesh MA is how he has named himself. So I started talking to her, and she told me how she started her journey with him when she was charging a very small amount, and to what she's charging today. The transformation that she had while working with him and branding and scaling up with him, it made me relate to my current scenario. And I was like, I am going literally through the same thing. This is what I am struggling with. 500 is nothing. I need to scale up. I need to start working on myself. So in February this year, in 2023 February, I spoke to this man. We were already connected, but at that point of time, I didn't really know, because he does a lot, many things. And at that point of time, I was very confused with what he actually does. But after listening to this dietitian story, I contacted him immediately. And I went like, Yogesh sir, how are you? And because we had spoken earlier, so I just went, Yogesh sir, how are you? What's going on? And then I just spoke to Dr. Prachi, and this is what she told me about her journey. So then he's like, yeah, I know, it's been 2 years since we've known each other. And that's how the conversation started. And then I told him about my problems. So, one very good thing that he was doing for me was that he never let me speak negative. Whenever I was about to start talking negative, he would cut me and he would tell me that, he would just change the topic without even letting me complete what I had to say. And I think it's a very good thing he did that, because I understood this later on after talking to him for a while and changing my thought process. He told me, I remember, Divya, you used to talk to me in the beginning, and I would always cut you whenever you would start with something negative. I said, yeah, at that point of time, I used to think that, why don't you even listen to me completely? So he said that I didn't want you to attract the negativity, because what you speak, what you give out to the universe is what universe gives back to you. So I wanted you to stop right there. And then he got me to this journey of starting to grow myself. And the very first thing he told me was that I will help you only if you are willing to work on yourself, and if you are ready to give me that time and trust me and work with me. And of course, I was completely hands down to it. I was like, yes, sir, I am there for that, because I really want to grow and I really want to scale up. So the very first challenge, he didn't even tell me that, you have to do a task. He told me there's a challenge for you. I said, yeah, tell me, bring it on. So he said, you have to write a book. And I was like, book? He was like, yeah, you have to write a book. I'm like, I am not an author. I don't know what I love reading books, but I am not an author. I've never written a book. So then he told me, no, this is a challenge. You have to write down a book. We will help you through the process. If there is any place you get stuck, you can tell us. But you know your field. You have the entire knowledge about your field. You only have to write it about your field. The book has to be over your field. So then I was thinking, I before I could even ask him, he's like, I know what your next question is going to be. I said, what? He was like, the topic of the book. I said, yeah, that was what I was coming to, because I don't know what you're talking. This is all Latin and Greek to me. So then he goes like, make a book over 101 tips in your entire fraternity, whatever you are teaching, make a book over that. Then I gave it a thought. I was like, give me some time. I want to think over it. So he said, you have time only till tonight. This is a challenge. If you take it, I will help you. If you don't, I won't. Then I was really motivated. He motivated me too much. So then I spoke to him in the evening. I called him up. I'm like, Yogesh sir, let's go ahead with it. Immediately he sent across, he sent across the details of how I have to go ahead, a complete layout of what I have to do. And that's how I started. He just said that, these would be the topics, like, just take one topic. So he said, what are the topics? Then I said, there is appearance, there's etiquette, there's time management, stress management. He said, take each topic, start writing 5 to 6 quotes for it. And that should be easy for you. So I said, okay, can I just see something from online? He's like, no, this is your book, this is your asset. It has to be copywritten. You cannot take anybody else's stuff. So then I was like, okay, but then how do you think am I going to finish this? He gave me a month's time. And then he said, you start writing. So he not even a month's time actually. We spoke on a Thursday. He told me by Saturday you should complete it. And I was like, what are you saying? 2 days and you want me to finish a book in 2 days? What is wrong? So then he went like, yeah, you can do it. You know your knowledge. You just start writing it once and see how quickly you'll flow through it. So then I was highly motivated. I started. And the moment I started writing it, the moment I got the layout, I started typing in there. And to my surprise, Saturday afternoon, exactly at 12 o'clock, I give him a call. I'm like, sir, I'm done with my book in 2 days. I started on Friday morning, and Saturday, 12 o'clock, I call him. I'm like, sir, I'm done. So he's like, are you serious? I said, yeah, I'm done. So he's like, no, check through the whole thing. I said, I'm done. So he's like, no, go through it again. So this kept happening. And he was also quite surprised with this whole thing. So he said, okay, now what I want you to do is that because I took it up as a challenge. I said, it's a challenge. I have to do it. I will do it no matter what. I did that. Then he told me, now go on to Google. Whatever you have written, just type it down and check if, things it's all your story only or it is someone else's story. So then I did all of that, everything was done. And within a week's time, right from writing my book, to accepting the challenge to writing my book to publishing the book, everything was done in a week's time. And I really kudos to Yogesh sir that, he has helped me through this. He told me that this is going to be an asset for you. This is how your journey is going to start. When you tell people you have your own book, you are an author, it's going to help you scale. And that's how it has really helped me. And I really respect that man so much. It's because of him that I have been able to grow so much. And even after that, he has been helping me in a lot many things. So even with strategies and stuff, whenever I get stuck, I call him and I'm like, okay, sir, this is the problem. What should I do? And his main agenda is to make a person independent. So he doesn't want anyone to be dependent on him. His entire journey, right from hand holding us to making us independent, is a beautiful journey. I have been working with him since a while, a couple of months now, I would say. And whatever task he, not even tasks, whatever challenges he gives, I would like to use the right word because those when he says challenges, your mind literally takes off and you're like, okay, it's a challenge, you have to do it. So that is what is happening with me, and he is really helping me very well. And the person that I was earlier, I'm changing a lot through that. I'm becoming more positive. I am spreading more positivity around me, and it's all because I would really give the credit to him. Because the phase that I'd seen in lockdown, how I was going down, 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 and then to coming up now is, I think, majorly because of him.
Fantastic. Yeah. The speed that you said, like, I mean, I haven't heard of anyone who has written a book in 3 days and finished the entire thing in 1 week. Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, I was shocked
So
myself.
yeah, and this is one of the things. I mean, you mentioned about Yogesh sir, and I'd like to ask you. This is one of the things that I usually ask about the entire journey. Let's do that now. Look at the journey, right from working in your dad's office to to all that you've gone through as a freelancer and as an author. Um, who are those people that you would like to give the credit to for your success?
So, firstly, my family, which would include my mom, dad, my sister, my brother in law, and my cute little nephew. Because It's through their love and support that I have grown. There were so many times I would literally cry to each one of them. My nephew, when he would come to me, he would see me crying. He would tell me, Masi, don't cry. Everything will be all right. That 5-year-old guy used to tell me that. And I would be like, oh my God, this is so heartwarming. This is so touching. So, it was, he used to just, and my sister, she would just tell him that, see, Masi is crying, just go give her a hug. He would come and hug me, and everything would be fine. So, I would really, really give the first credit to my family. My brother in law also has been very, very supportive of me. He's been there through the thick and thins of my life, I would say. Apart from my family, I would really like to give the credit to Yogesh sir. It's because of him that I have really been able to see things a different way, think differently, and do things differently. Though your parents are there, they will give you that emotional support, but at times even they feel bad for you, right? But Yogesh sir coming in as an outsider, though he would empathize and sympathize with me, he was still pushing me. He was still telling me that, "Yeah, you have to do this, do it, you can do it, you can do it." And I was like, okay, let's do it. So I think, yeah, these people are very, very close to my heart. Because of them, it's how I am progressing and how I'm going further.
Brilliant. Divya, talking of your journey, like reflecting on your journey, right? I will also want to ask about the decisions. I mean, in your on your way till here, okay, you've taken several decisions. Some were spot on, some were not so good, and you learned from them and things like that. So, having learned all of these from these decisions, what would be your advice to someone who is just getting started, someone who is at the job right now and want to start as a freelancer or their own business, or someone who just started? What's your advice for them?
The very first thing is don't get disheartened. In the beginning, there are going to be a lot many downfalls. Do not stop because of that. Don't get angry. It is human nature to get angry. And this I'm saying from all my past experiences. I have been through this. I have learned through this. So now when I look back, I feel that, if I had not reacted a certain way I did at that point of time, I probably could have seen things in a different manner. I could have reacted a different manner and could have got things a different way. So I could have achieved a lot more than losing out on them. So stop getting angry. Listen to what people have to say to you. Now, of course, when I say listen to people, what they have to say to you, it's not any and every person. People who really wish well for you, who really want you to see you grow, so those are the people you should listen to. And whenever you are stuck and you think that there is someone you need an advice from, just go and ask. You will not become any lower by asking for help. Because many a times, this is what stops us. We feel that, oh, if I go and ask, what is that person going to think about me? Just forget that. Irrespective of if you think there's an expertise with some person, that expertise lies in one person, go ask that person. What will happen? The least would be that he will tell you, no, I sorry, I can't help you, right? But you did your best, right? And what if he says a yes, he just helps you? It'll just be a game changer for you. So I think these are a few things that people should keep in mind. There are going to be lows and highs, but in that lows, do not give up. Never, never give up. Because the more you fight, the easier your battle becomes. And in the beginning, the first few stages, when you start difficult, is when you have an easy life ahead. But if you start easy, there are going to be difficult parts in front of you. So yeah, this
Very
is
well
what
said,
I would like to
Divya.
say.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, well said. Very, very well said. And I like the way you put it that, there are times when we don't listen. We don't listen to even the well wishers and who are saying this for our good. And I mean, there are times when, this is when you're just getting started and you're not sure, this is the time to pay attention to, and be careful, of course, be careful to, who you're listening to, but then do pay attention to the advice that comes your way. So Divya, now that you've written a book and within a week, so are you planning to write more books? And what's your plan for Swaview? What's your future plans for the brand?
So yes, another book is coming out soon too. So the work is almost started, I would say. Again, thanks to Yogesh sir, he is wanting me to write some more books. So that is what I'm doing. And apart from that, my plans with Swaview is to really make it grow. Until now that I was serving individuals, I want to start with, I've already started with B2B sales. I want to grow in that field. I want to make that bigger and better because I have seen people transform their lives with the coaching that I've given. So there was a very interesting story when I was coaching in one of the IT sectors, and this lady Ipsita, she came to. We were just talking about the vision board. So I taught them, how you should make a vision board and start setting goals for yourself. And when she came back to me, she came with a testimonial. She told me that, Divya ma'am, your this vision board really helped me grow. It was in November that I had taken last year in November that I started with her training. That entire there was a training session held for the company employees. So that is what I did for her. And in December, she comes back to me within a month's time telling me how much so many things have changed in her life because of that one vision board. And that was my first testimonial ever, in my Swaview thing. And that made me so happy, so happy. I was like, oh my God, I literally changed someone's life. I really helped someone become better. So that joy was a whole different level. And now I crave for that kind of joy. That is what brings me happiness now. So that is what I want to do. I want to help people enhance themselves in a lot many ways. Wherever there are people who are facing issues with a couple of things in their lives at the moment, or even who just want to improve otherwise. That is what I want to do. I want to help them become very good and much much better than what they are right now, so that the actual earning is when they come back to you and tell you, ma'am, it's because of you that this has happened in my life. So that really touches my heart, and that is where
That's
I
the
want to
true.
go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a true price that we get, right? I mean, when someone tells that you've changed, when we realize we've made a difference, and you are making a difference here, and this is you are in the business of making differences, like in
Yes.
people's lives. Very well done. So, Divya, it has been such a wonderful conversation. I mean, your journey has been so colorful, and it's fantastic the way you've come up and the way you have you know moved from being a freelancer to being you're launching your own brand to exhibitions to writing your book to helping people. Fantastic work, and I wish you all the best for the future, and
Thank you so
keep
much.
growing and keep making differences in people's lives.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for taking our time and sharing your journey and your story with us.
Thanks for having me here. It was a pleasure being here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Divya Advani, the founder of Swaview, the author, image consultant, soft skills coach, fashion designer, and you've been watching and listening to Be Your Own Boss.